Thunder rolled across the city skyline as Kendrick Cole stared through the glass walls of his office. Thousands of lights glittered below, like stars trapped inside concrete and steel. He owned companies, buildings, and influence that stretched across the country. Yet none of it could quiet the emptiness inside him. People envied his success. They admired his discipline. They respected his family name. But they never saw the loneliness hidden behind his calm expression. The truth was simple. Kendrick had everything except a life that felt like his own. The first thing people noticed about Kendrick was not his wealth, it was his silence. In a world where privileged men demanded attention, Kendrick listened. While others bragged, he observed. While others reacted, he remained still. Even as the son of powerful business magnate Vernon Cole, he carried himself with unusual restraint. Employees respected him, investors trusted him, socialites admired him. Yet nobody truly knew him. They only knew the image created by his father's expectations. At 27, Kendrick had already stepped into the family empire. He attended executive meetings. He negotiated major contracts. He managed responsibilities most people twice his age could not handle. Every room grew quieter when he entered. Every decision carried weight. Still, nothing brought him joy. The luxury cars waiting outside his family's mansion meant nothing. The expensive watches meant nothing. The carefully selected women introduced by his father meant nothing. Everything around him looked perfect. Everything inside him felt empty. His life followed the same routine every day. Morning workouts, formal breakfasts, endless meetings, business dinners, strategic discussions. His father treated every conversation like a boardroom negotiation. Questions about feelings never existed. Dreams never mattered. Personal desires had no place inside the Cole family philosophy. Duty came first. Obedience came second. Everything else came last. Kendrick had spent his entire life following that system without question, until one afternoon changed everything. A long meeting finally ended beneath grey skies threatening rain. His driver waited beside a black luxury vehicle. The familiar routine should have continued. Instead, something unexpected stirred inside Kendrick. He paused beside the car. The city traffic hummed around him. People rushed along sidewalks. Life moved in every direction except his own. Suddenly, he felt trapped by a future already planned for him. "Drive," Kendrick said quietly. "Where to, sir?" the driver asked. Kendrick hesitated. He honestly did not know. "Just drive." The vehicle moved through the city. Modern buildings gradually disappeared behind them. Busy streets replaced polished avenues. Small businesses crowded narrow roads. Street vendors called out to passing customers. Music drifted from open storefronts. The air felt different here, real, alive. Kendrick lowered the window slightly. Warm wind rushed inside, carrying scents of grilled food, spices, dust, and rain. For the first time in months, he felt awake. "Stop here," he said suddenly. The driver looked confused, but obeyed. Kendrick stepped onto the sidewalk before anyone could question him. A small food stand stood beneath a patchwork metal roof. Steam rose from large cooking pots. The rich aroma instantly captured his attention. Behind the counter stood a young woman wearing a simple dress. No jewelry sparkled on her wrists. No designer labels decorated her clothes. Yet there was something unforgettable about her. Her eyes held warmth. Her smile carried honesty. Her presence felt real in a way nothing else had for years. She looked up cautiously as he approached. "Can I help you?" she asked. Kendrick realized he had been staring. "What are you cooking?" he asked. A faint smile appeared. "Food." The answer almost made him laugh. "What kind of food? Rice, beans, stew? Whatever fits your budget." There was no sarcasm in her voice, only straightforward honesty. Kendrick ordered a meal and sat on a rough wooden bench. The seat felt uncomfortable compared to everything he normally used. Yet after the first bite, none of that mattered. The food tasted authentic. Every flavor carried effort, care, and pride. It felt more satisfying than meals served in expensive restaurants. "What's your name?" he asked. She paused briefly. "Naomi." "I'm Kendrick." A small grin crossed her face. "I already know." He raised an eyebrow. "You do? You don't exactly blend into places like this." For the first time that day, he genuinely smiled. That encounter should have ended there. A wealthy businessman stopping at a food stand. A brief conversation, a forgettable moment. Yet something about Naomi stayed with him. The next day he returned. Then the day after that. Soon, casual visits became a routine he anticipated more than any business meeting. At first, their conversations remained simple. They talked about weather. They talked about food. They talked about customers and daily frustrations. Naomi never treated him like an important man. She never seemed impressed by money or status. To her, he was simply Kendrick. That feeling became addictive. Days passed beneath changing skies. Summer heat settled over crowded streets. Evening rain cooled the sidewalks. Neighborhood sounds blended into a comforting rhythm. Kendrick found himself lingering longer after meals. Naomi found herself smiling more whenever he appeared. Neither admitted what was growing between them. One evening, dark clouds gathered overhead. Rain suddenly poured from the sky. Customers rushed away seeking shelter. Naomi scrambled to protect her stand from the storm. Without hesitation, Kendrick jumped forward to help. Together, they secured equipment while wind fought against them. Rain soaked their clothes. Laughter replaced formality. For a few precious moments, wealth and poverty disappeared. Only two people remained beneath the storm. When everything was finally secured, Naomi looked directly into his eyes. "You're not used to this life," she said. "No," Kendrick admitted, "but you stayed. So did you." Neither realized that a single conversation could change the direction of an entire life. As thunder echoed again across the darkening sky, Kendrick stood beside Naomi and felt something unfamiliar take root inside his heart. It was stronger than curiosity, stronger than attraction, stronger than anything he had experienced before. And neither of them knew that the choice waiting ahead would soon force him to sacrifice everything he had ever known. The rainstorm faded, but its memory lingered between Kendrick and Naomi. What began as occasional conversations slowly transformed into something deeper. Every afternoon, after meetings and negotiations drained his energy, Kendrick found himself returning to the small food stand. The city seemed less oppressive there. The noise felt friendlier. The people felt genuine. Most importantly, Naomi made him feel seen. Weeks passed beneath blazing sunlight and warm evening skies. The neighborhood slowly became familiar. Children waved when they recognized him. Vendors greeted him with friendly nods. The scent of grilled food and spices no longer felt foreign. For the first time in his life, Kendrick experienced a world untouched by boardrooms, politics, and family expectations. Naomi noticed the change in him. "You smile more now," she said one afternoon. Kendrick looked surprised. "Do I?" "You do." He glanced away thoughtfully. "Maybe that's because nobody here expects anything from me." Naomi studied him carefully. "That sounds lonely." The comment struck deeper than she intended. "It is," he admitted. For a moment neither spoke. The busy street carried on around them. Cars rolled past, customers came and went, yet everything seemed quieter. As their friendship grew, so did their honesty. Naomi shared stories about her struggles. She spoke about long days, rising expenses, and the determination required to survive. Kendrick listened carefully. Unlike everyone in his corporate world, she never exaggerated or pretended. Her strength came from experience, not status. Kendrick found himself sharing pieces of his own life. Not everything, not yet, but enough for her to understand the pressure he carried. One evening, he arrived later than usual. Naomi immediately noticed the exhaustion in his eyes. "Bad day?" she asked. "You could say that." "Business problems." Kendrick laughed softly. "Family problems." Naomi nodded knowingly. "Those are usually harder." The answer surprised him. "You didn't even ask what happened." "Because sometimes people need understanding more than questions." He stared at her for a moment. Nobody had ever spoken to him that way before. The following days felt different. The distance between them continued shrinking. Shared conversations became shared laughter. Shared laughter became lingering glances. Neither admitted what was happening, but both felt it. One afternoon, Kendrick tried paying extra for his meal. Naomi immediately pushed the money back. "That's too much." "Keep it," he said. "No." "Why not?" Her expression hardened. "Because I'm selling food, not accepting charity." The firmness in her voice surprised him. Most people eagerly accepted his money. Naomi refused it without hesitation. Strangely, that made him respect her even more. As the weeks turned into months, Kendrick began rearranging his schedule around their conversations. Important meetings felt less important. Business dinners felt exhausting. Time with Naomi became the highlight of every day. One evening, they sat together after closing. The streets had quieted. A cool breeze drifted through the neighborhood. Nearby lights flickered beneath the gathering darkness. Do you ever wish your life was different?" Naomi asked. Kendrick answered immediately. "Every day. What would you change?" He thought carefully. "I'd choose my own future." Naomi smiled sadly. "Most people want that. What about you?" She looked toward the distant skyline. "I just want peace." The simplicity of her answer stayed with him long after he left. Eventually, the feelings between them became impossible to ignore. Every glance lasted longer. Every goodbye felt harder. Every meeting felt necessary. Then came the evening that changed everything. The neighborhood glowed beneath golden sunset light. Business had slowed. Naomi was cleaning the last dishes while Kendrick sat nearby watching her. Finally, she noticed. "Why are you staring at me?" He stood slowly. His heart pounded harder than it ever had during any business negotiation. "Because I love you." The words hung between them. Naomi froze. The sounds of the street faded into the background. For several seconds, she simply stared. Then she shook her head. "No," Kendrick frowned. "No? You don't mean that." "I do. You're confused." "I'm not confused." Naomi looked away. "This is new to you, that's all." Kendrick stepped closer. "No, this is the most certain I've ever been about anything." Her breathing became uneven. Deep down, she already knew the truth. She felt it too. Days later, Naomi finally admitted her own feelings. Neither celebration nor dramatic declarations followed. Only relief. For the first time, both felt understood. For the first time, both felt chosen. For several beautiful months, life seemed almost perfect. Then reality arrived. Kendrick knew he could not hide their relationship forever. Eventually, his father would learn the truth. Eventually, choices would have to be made. Eventually, love would collide with power. That collision came sooner than expected. One evening, Kendrick sat across from his father at the massive dining table inside the family mansion. Crystal chandeliers illuminated polished surfaces. Staff moved quietly through the room. Everything looked elegant. Everything felt dangerous. His father reviewed documents while eating dinner. "There's a family I want you to meet next week," he said casually. Kendrick placed down his fork. "I'm seeing someone." The room immediately felt colder. His father slowly lifted his eyes. "Who?" Kendrick took a steady breath. "Her name is Naomi." "What family is she from?" The question came instantly. Not who she was, not whether she made him happy, only her background. Kendrick already knew where this conversation was heading. "She doesn't come from wealth," he answered. Silence followed. His father's expression darkened. "Explain." "She owns a small food stand." The fork in his father's hand stopped moving. "A food stand? Yes." The silence became suffocating. Then his father slowly stood. The movement alone carried more threat than shouting. "Absolutely not." Kendrick remained seated. "I wasn't asking permission." For the first time in years, father and son stared directly at one another as equals. Neither looked away. Neither surrendered. And neither realized that this single conversation had just started a war capable of destroying everything both men valued. The argument ended without resolution, but the damage was done. Kendrick left the mansion that night carrying more than frustration. He carried the certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. The city lights blurred outside his car window as he replayed every word. His father had spent years controlling every aspect of his future. For the first time, Kendrick had openly refused. The following morning arrived under dark clouds. Heavy humidity hung over the city. The air felt tense, matching the storm brewing inside him. Despite the pressure waiting at corporate headquarters, Kendrick drove directly to Naomi's food stand. She noticed immediately that something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. Kendrick forced a smile. "I told my father about us." Naomi froze. "And?" The silence answered before he spoke. It didn't go well. Her expression softened. Kendrick. He doesn't approve. I expected that. The calmness in her voice surprised him. You expected it? Naomi gave a small laugh. A man like your father was never going to celebrate this relationship. Kendrick looked down. That doesn't make it easier. No, she admitted, it doesn't. For a moment they simply stood together while customers moved around them. The neighborhood carried on with its usual rhythm, yet both understood that their future had suddenly become uncertain. Meanwhile, inside the Cole corporate headquarters, another conversation was taking place. Vernon Cole sat at the head of a long conference table. Several senior executives waited quietly while he reviewed reports. Normally, his attention never drifted during business discussions. Today was different. His thoughts remained fixed on one thing: Naomi. A woman he had never met, a woman he already blamed. When the meeting ended, Vernon called his private assistant. I want information. About whom, sir? The woman my son is seeing. The assistant immediately understood. I'll begin today. Vernon nodded. His expression remained calm, his intentions were not. Days passed. Pressure increased. Kendrick continued visiting Naomi every day. At work, he faced growing tension. His father criticized every decision. Meetings became confrontations. Conversations became warnings. Still, Kendrick refused to surrender. One afternoon, Naomi noticed something unusual. A black luxury vehicle sat across the street watching the food stand. The same vehicle appeared the next day, and the day after that. By the fourth day, she felt uneasy. When Kendrick arrived that evening, she pointed toward the parked car. Do you know them? His expression immediately darkened. No, but deep down, he already suspected the truth. His father had begun investigating. The realization filled him with anger. That night, he confronted Vernon directly. The mansion felt colder than ever. Massive windows overlooked manicured gardens. Expensive artwork decorated the walls. Every symbol of wealth seemed meaningless. Kendrick entered his father's study without knocking. Vernon barely looked up. You're tracking her. The older man calmly closed a document. I'm protecting my family. By spying on her? By understanding who she is? Kendrick stepped closer. She's done nothing wrong. That remains to be seen. The answer nearly shattered his remaining patience. You don't even know her. I know enough. No, Kendrick replied sharply. You know nothing. Vernon finally stood. Years of authority filled the room. I know she is distracting you from your responsibilities. My responsibilities? Your future, your legacy, everything this family built. Kendrick shook his head. You keep talking about legacy. You never talk about happiness. Vernon's expression hardened. Happiness doesn't build empires. Maybe that's why you're so miserable. The words landed like a punch. Silence followed. Neither man moved. Neither man retreated. For the first time in his life, Kendrick saw genuine hurt flash across his father's face. It disappeared almost immediately. You will end this relationship, Vernon said coldly. No. You don't understand the consequences. Then explain them. The older man stared directly into his son's eyes. If you continue down this path, you will lose everything. Kendrick answered without hesitation. Then I'll lose everything. The conversation ended there. The battle lines had been drawn. A week later, matters became worse. Naomi arrived at her food stand before sunrise. The streets remained quiet. Cool morning air drifted between buildings. As she unlocked the small storage area, a voice interrupted her. Good morning. She turned. A well-dressed woman stood nearby. Elegant and composed, powerful. Even before introductions, Naomi knew exactly who she was. Kendrick's mother, Monica Cole. The older woman smiled politely. May we talk? Naomi felt her stomach tighten. About what? My son. The answer was expected. The conversation was not. They sat together at a nearby cafe before business hours began. Morning sunlight filtered through large windows. Few customers were present. For several moments, neither woman spoke. Finally, Monica broke the silence. He loves you. Naomi blinked. That was not what she expected. Yes, she said quietly, I can see it. The older woman looked down briefly. That's why I'm here. Naomi's heart sank. You want me to leave him? Monica sighed. I want him to have the life he was raised for. Those aren't the same thing. The response caught Monica off guard. Naomi continued, you talk about his future. Nobody asks what he wants. Monica studied her carefully. And what do you think he wants? Naomi answered immediately. Freedom. The older woman looked away. For a brief moment, guilt crossed her face. Then it disappeared. Love alone cannot sustain a family, Monica said softly. Neither can money. The words hung heavily between them. Neither woman could deny the truth hidden inside both statements. Eventually, Monica stood. You're stronger than I expected. Naomi offered a faint smile. So are you. The older woman paused before leaving. I hope you understand what this choice may cost. Then she walked away. Naomi watched her disappear into the morning crowd. An uneasy feeling settled inside her chest. Because for the first time, she realized this conflict was no longer just about love. It was becoming a struggle between two worlds. And somewhere deep inside, she feared one of those worlds would soon force Kendrick to make an impossible choice. That fear grew stronger later that evening when Kendrick received a message from his father. Only 4 words. Report to my office, immediately. When Kendrick arrived, a thick folder waited on the desk. Vernon pushed it toward him. What's this? Kendrick asked. Proof. Slowly, he opened the folder. His heartbeat stopped. Inside were photographs, documents, financial records, private details about Naomi's life. And sitting on top of everything was a contract. A contract offering Naomi enough money to disappear forever. Kendrick looked up in disbelief. His father's face remained completely emotionless. Then Vernon spoke words that changed everything. She's already been approached. And for the first time, Kendrick wondered whether Naomi had told him the whole truth. The folder felt heavier than its physical weight. Kendrick sat motionless in his father's office, staring at the photographs and documents spread across the desk. Every page represented an invasion of Naomi's privacy. Every detail reminded him how far Vernon was willing to go. But one thing disturbed him more than anything else. The contract. A large financial settlement. Enough money to change someone's life. Enough money to make temptation difficult. Enough money to create doubt. You offered her this? Kendrick asked quietly. Vernon folded his hands. I did. Why? Because every person has a price. The answer hit him harder than expected. Not Naomi. Vernon almost smiled. You're certain? Kendrick's jaw tightened. Yes. Then ask her. Silence filled the office. Vernon leaned back calmly. Ask her whether she received my offer. The confidence in his father's voice planted something dangerous inside Kendrick. Doubt. Not because he distrusted Naomi, because he hated that the question now existed at all. Outside, dark clouds gathered above the city. Rain threatened once again. Traffic crawled through crowded streets while Kendrick drove toward Naomi's neighborhood. The entire journey felt longer than usual. Questions circled endlessly through his mind. Why hadn't she mentioned anything? Had she refused immediately? Had she considered it? Was she protecting him from worry or hiding something? By the time he arrived, his emotions were tangled between anger and confusion. Naomi immediately sensed it. What's wrong? She asked. Kendrick placed the contract on the counter. The color drained from her face. That reaction answered one question instantly. She knew exactly what it was. You met my father. Naomi looked away. Yes. And my mother. A brief pause. Yes. The neighborhood noise suddenly seemed distant. Kendrick stared at her. Why didn't you tell me? Her silence lasted too long. Naomi, she finally spoke, because I knew this would happen. What would happen? You looking at me differently. The answer hurt because part of it was true. Did you take the offer? He asked. Her eyes widened. What? Did you? The question sounded harsher than he intended. Pain flashed across her face. No. Then why hide it? Naomi stepped away from the counter. Because your family doesn't see me as a person. Her voice trembled. To them, I'm a problem to solve. Kendrick immediately regretted his tone, but the damage was already done. I know that, he said. Do you? For the first time, genuine anger appeared in her eyes. Your father tried to buy me. Your mother tried to convince me. Both of them acted like I was standing between you and your destiny." The words came faster now. "And instead of asking how I felt, you're asking whether I sold you." Kendrick had no response. Because she was right. The silence between them stretched painfully. Finally, Naomi spoke again. "I refused immediately." Her voice softened. "I didn't tell you because I didn't want you fighting your family because of me." Kendrick lowered his eyes. Shame settled heavily inside him. "I'm sorry." Naomi looked exhausted. "So am I." Rain began falling outside, slowly at first, then harder. Customers hurried away, seeking shelter. Within minutes, the street nearly emptied. Neither moved. Neither spoke. The storm outside felt calmer than the one between them. Finally, Kendrick stepped forward. "I trust you." Naomi studied him carefully. "Do you?" "Yes." "Then stop letting them make us doubt each other." The words struck him deeply, because that was exactly what had happened. His father had not attacked their relationship directly. He had attacked its foundation, trust. That evening, Kendrick made a decision. He returned to the mansion for one final confrontation. The atmosphere inside felt cold and formal. Staff members avoided eye contact. Even they sensed tension filling the house. Vernon waited inside his study, almost as if expecting him. "You spoke with her," the older man said. "I did. And," Kendrick stood tall, "she refused your money." A brief silence followed. Vernon's expression remained unreadable. "Interesting." "No," Kendrick's voice sharpened. "What's interesting is how little you understand people." The older man's eyes narrowed. "Careful." "No, you be careful." The room instantly grew tense. Kendrick had never spoken to his father that way before. "You think everything can be bought?" "Most things can. Not love." Vernon laughed quietly. "Love fades. Power remains. Then why are you so afraid of it?" The question landed perfectly. Vernon's face hardened. For the first time, Kendrick saw uncertainty behind his father's confidence. Only for a moment. Then it vanished. "If you choose her," Vernon said coldly, "you choose against this family." The words echoed through the room, a final warning, a final ultimatum. Kendrick took a long breath. Years of obedience stood behind him, years of expectations, years of control. And now one choice stood before him. Simple, terrifying, permanent. When he finally spoke, his voice never wavered. "Then I choose her." The silence that followed felt endless. Vernon stared at his son, not with anger, not even with disappointment. Something worse, finality. "Then you're no longer part of this family." The words landed with devastating force, yet Kendrick did not retreat. "If that's the cost, I'll pay it." He turned toward the door. "Kendrick." The voice stopped him. He looked back. Vernon stood beside the desk, older than he had ever seemed before. "Once you leave, there's no coming back." Kendrick nodded. "I understand." Then he walked away. Hours later, he stood outside Naomi's home, carrying a single duffel bag. No security team, no luxury vehicle, no family fortune, only a choice. Naomi opened the door and froze. "Kendrick," he smiled softly. "Can I come in?" She looked at the bag, then back at him. Slowly she understood, her eyes filled with tears. "What happened?" Kendrick stepped inside. The rain continued falling outside. The small room felt warm despite its simplicity. For the first time in years, he felt free. Then he looked directly at her and delivered the words that would change both their lives forever. "I gave up everything." The room fell completely silent after Kendrick's words. Rain tapped steadily against the thin windows while Naomi stared at the duffel bag resting near the door. Everything felt unreal. Just hours earlier, Kendrick had been one of the most privileged men in the city. Now he stood before her with nothing except the clothes he carried and the choice he had made. "What do you mean you gave up everything?" Naomi asked quietly. Kendrick sat down on the edge of the small bed. His shoulders looked heavier than she had ever seen. "My father gave me a choice." Naomi already knew the answer before he finished. "Me or the family empire?" Kendrick nodded. "I chose you." Tears immediately filled her eyes, not because she felt victorious, because she understood the cost. The room suddenly felt smaller, the weight of his sacrifice filled every corner. "Kendrick." He reached for her hand. Don't what?" "Don't apologize." His voice remained calm. This was my decision. Naomi sat beside him. For several moments neither spoke. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside, two lives had just changed forever. The following morning felt unfamiliar. Kendrick woke to sounds he had never noticed before. Vendors calling to customers, children laughing outside, radios playing music from nearby homes, a barking dog, a passing motorcycle. The world felt alive. Yet reality arrived quickly. He no longer had access to family accounts. No company position, no financial safety net, no guarantee of tomorrow. For the first time in his life, Kendrick faced uncertainty. Naomi noticed him staring quietly at the ceiling. "Thinking?" she asked. "A lot." "About regret?" He turned toward her immediately. "No." The answer came without hesitation. Naomi smiled softly. "Good." He sat up slowly. "Now I just need to figure out how to build a life. We'll figure it out together." Those words stayed with him throughout the day. Together, not alone, together. The first week proved more difficult than either expected. Kendrick visited office after office, searching for employment. His education impressed people. His business knowledge impressed people. His missing family connections did not. Without the Cole name opening doors, opportunities suddenly disappeared. Interview after interview ended the same way. "We'll contact you." Nobody ever did. One afternoon, he sat alone beneath a tree near a crowded intersection. Sweat covered his face. Exhaustion settled deep into his bones. For the first time, he felt invisible. A construction worker pushed a wheelbarrow filled with heavy materials across a dusty road nearby. The man's shirt was soaked with sweat. His movements were slow from exhaustion. Yet he kept going, step after step, load after load, without complaint. Kendrick watched silently. Something shifted inside him. That evening he returned home empty-handed. Naomi immediately knew. "No luck?" He shook his head. "No." She reached into her bag and removed a small stack of cash. "I worked extra hours today." Kendrick frowned. "You shouldn't have to do that." "Why not?" "Because I'm supposed to provide for us." Naomi's expression changed. "We're partners, Kendrick." "Still." "No." Her voice grew firmer. "You chose me when you had everything. Stop acting like you're fighting this battle alone." The room became quiet. Kendrick looked away. Deep down, he knew she was right. A few days later, he finally found work. Not in an office, not in a boardroom, not behind a polished executive desk. On a construction site. The first day nearly broke him. The heat felt relentless. The labor felt endless. His hands blistered, his muscles burned, every movement hurt. Yet he returned the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Each evening, Naomi greeted him with a smile. Each evening, he collapsed into a chair exhausted. One night, she laughed while looking at his hands. "They're getting rough." Kendrick examined the calluses forming across his palms. "I noticed. You look stronger. I feel broken." Naomi laughed harder. "That's probably progress." Despite the hardships, joy still found them. Power outages turned dinners into candlelit conversations. Rainstorms became excuses to sit together listening to thunder. Shared struggles created memories richer than luxury ever had. For the first time, Kendrick dreamed about a future he actually wanted. One evening, they sat outside watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. "I want to build something of my own someday," Kendrick said. Naomi smiled. "You will." "How do you know?" "Because you don't know how to quit." Her confidence in him felt stronger than his confidence in himself. Months passed. Slowly, life became manageable. Not easy, never easy, but manageable. Then everything changed again. Naomi sat quietly one evening while Kendrick finished dinner. She seemed unusually nervous. He immediately noticed. "What's wrong?" Her smile trembled. "Nothing's wrong." "Then what is it?" Naomi looked down briefly, then back at him. Tears formed in her eyes. Not sad tears, different tears. "We're having a baby." For several seconds, Kendrick simply stared. The words took time to register. Then suddenly he laughed. A real laugh, louder than Naomi had ever heard. He pulled her into his arms. "Are you serious?" She nodded. "Very serious." Kendrick held her tightly, his eyes filled with tears. Not from fear, not from regret, From joy, pure joy. "We're going to be parents," he whispered. Naomi rested her forehead against his. "Yes." Outside, the city lights flickered beneath a peaceful night sky. Inside, hope filled every corner of their small home. But neither of them knew that while they celebrated new life, someone else was quietly watching from a distance. And the person following their lives had just received devastating news that would soon change everything. The news arrived on a quiet afternoon wrapped in silence and fear. While Kendrick and Naomi planned for their growing family miles away in the Cole mansion, Monica sat alone in a private sitting room, staring at a medical report. Sunlight streamed through expensive curtains, but nothing about the room felt warm. Her hands trembled. The diagnosis was undeniable. Vernon Cole was seriously ill. For years he had controlled businesses, governments, and people through sheer force of will. Now something beyond wealth and influence threatened him, something money could not negotiate with. When Vernon finally learned the truth, his reaction surprised everyone. He did not shout, he did not panic, he simply became quieter. Days passed, then weeks. The powerful businessman who once dominated every room began spending more time alone. For the first time in decades, he found himself thinking about family instead of expansion, thinking about legacy instead of profits, thinking about Kendrick. Meanwhile, life continued inside the small apartment. Naomi's pregnancy brought both joy and anxiety. Every dollar suddenly mattered more. Every expense required careful planning. Kendrick worked longer hours at the construction site. His body grew stronger, but the strain became harder to hide. Each evening, he returned home exhausted. Dust covered his clothes. Pain filled his muscles. Still, he smiled whenever he saw Naomi. "How's our little one today?" he would ask. Naomi always laughed. "Hungry." Just like the father. Despite their struggles, happiness remained alive. They dreamed about names. They imagined birthdays. They planned futures they could barely afford. Those dreams helped them endure difficult days. One evening, heavy rain battered the city. Water flowed through crowded streets while thunder shook the sky. Kendrick arrived home later than usual. Naomi immediately noticed something different. His smile looked forced. His eyes looked tired, not physically tired, something deeper. "Rough day?" she asked. "Nothing I can't handle." The answer came too quickly. Naomi studied him carefully. "Kendrick, I'm fine." Again, too quickly. She said nothing, but worry settled quietly inside her heart. The following weeks revealed more changes. Kendrick laughed less. He spent longer periods staring into space. Sometimes Naomi caught him looking toward the city skyline with a distant expression, as though part of him remained trapped between two worlds. One night she finally confronted him. "Talk to me." Kendrick looked up from the chair where he sat. "About what?" "About whatever you're carrying." He smiled weakly. "I'm carrying bricks all day. That's enough." Naomi didn't smile back. "That's not what I mean." Silence followed. For several moments he seemed ready to speak. Then he simply shook his head. "I'm okay." She wanted to push harder. Instead, she let it go. For now. A few days later, another surprise arrived. A black luxury car appeared outside their neighborhood. The vehicle stood out immediately. People noticed, children pointed, neighbors whispered. Naomi's stomach tightened. The car looked familiar, very familiar. The door opened, Monica stepped out. Elegant as always, composed as always, but something had changed. Her eyes looked older, sadder. When she approached the food stand, Naomi immediately understood this visit was different. "Can we talk?" Monica asked quietly. Naomi hesitated, then nodded. They walked together through narrow streets until they reached the small apartment. Once inside, Monica slowly looked around. The modest furniture, the worn walls, the simple belongings. Evidence of the life Kendrick had chosen. For a long moment she said nothing, then she sat down. Her shoulders suddenly looked heavy, almost fragile. Naomi had never seen her this way before. "What's wrong?" Naomi asked. Monica looked down at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice barely rose above a whisper. "My husband is dying." The words hit Naomi like a physical blow. "What?" Monica nodded slowly, tears gathered in her eyes. "He's very sick." The room fell silent. Outside, distant traffic hummed through the neighborhood. Inside, everything felt frozen. "Does Kendrick know?" Naomi asked. "No." "Why not?" Monica looked away. "Because Vernon wouldn't allow it." Naomi struggled to understand. "Then why are you telling me?" The older woman's eyes met hers. Pain filled them. Real pain, the kind money could never erase. "Because he wants his son back." The words settled heavily between them. Back. Back to the mansion, back to the empire, back to the life Kendrick left behind. Naomi's chest tightened. "And?" Monica swallowed hard. The next words clearly cost her something. "There's a condition." Naomi already knew. Before Monica even spoke, deep down she knew. "What condition?" she asked anyway. Monica's voice trembled. "You have to leave him." Silence exploded through the room. Naomi slowly stood. Shock flashed across her face. Then disbelief. Then anger. "No." The answer came instantly, without hesitation, without uncertainty. Monica closed her eyes briefly, as if expecting that response. "Please listen." "No." Naomi's voice grew stronger. "I'm not leaving him." The older woman looked up. Tears now filled her eyes completely. "Then my husband will die without his son." The statement hung heavily in the air. Naomi's heart pounded, because for the first time since meeting Kendrick, she found herself facing a choice with no good answer. And deep inside, a terrifying thought had already begun taking shape. Monica left shortly before sunset. The neighborhood streets glowed beneath fading orange light, while Naomi remained standing inside the apartment, unable to move. The conversation replayed endlessly through her mind. "Your husband is dying. He wants his son back. You have to leave him." Each sentence felt heavier than the last. Outside, life continued normally. Children played, vendors packed away supplies, neighbors laughed across narrow streets. But inside Naomi's heart, a storm had begun. That evening, she prepared dinner mechanically. Every movement felt automatic. Every thought returned to the same impossible question. What if Monica was right? When Kendrick finally arrived home, exhaustion covered his face. His clothes were stained with dust. His hands looked rougher than ever. Yet the moment he saw Naomi, he smiled. That smile nearly broke her. "How was your day?" "Jay," he asked. "Fine." The lie came too easily. Kendrick sat down beside her. "You don't sound fine." "Just tired." He nodded. "Me too." For several moments they ate quietly. Naomi watched him carefully. Every small movement, every tired expression, every hidden sign of strain. Suddenly, she noticed something she had ignored for months. The weight on his shoulders, the exhaustion in his eyes, the pressure he carried without complaint. Later that night, rain returned, soft at first, then steady. The sound filled the small apartment while darkness settled around them. Eventually, they went to bed. Kendrick fell asleep quickly, or at least he pretended to. Naomi could not sleep. Monica's words refused to leave her mind. Hours passed. The room remained silent. Then she heard movement, very slight, very careful. Naomi kept her eyes closed. Kendrick slowly rose from the bed. The floor creaked softly beneath his feet. He walked toward the far corner of the room. For several moments there was only silence. Then she heard it. A shaky breath, another, and another. Naomi's chest tightened instantly. Her heart began racing. The sound came again. This time clearer, a man struggling not to cry. Slowly she opened her eyes. Kendrick sat on the floor with his back against the wall. His head was lowered, his hands covered his face, his shoulders trembled. The sight shattered her. She had never seen him like this. Not after losing his family. Not after losing his wealth. Not after endless months of struggle. He had always remained strong. Until now. "I'm trying," he whispered. The words barely reached her, yet they felt deafening. "I'm really trying." Naomi pressed a hand against her mouth. Tears immediately filled her eyes. "I thought I could handle everything." His voice cracked. "I thought I could give you and our child the life you deserve." Silence followed, then another broken breath. "But I'm failing." The sentence pierced straight through her heart. Kendrick lowered his head further. "I disappointed him." Naomi knew exactly who he meant. His father, even after everything. Even after rejection. Even after years of conflict, the wound remained. "I disappointed everyone," he whispered. His voice finally broke completely. Naomi could barely breathe. For the first time, she truly understood how much pain he carried. Not just financial pressure, not just responsibility. Grief, guilt, loss, loneliness. He carried it all alone, and she had never fully seen it. Eventually, Kendrick wiped his face, slowly regained control, slowly rebuilt the mask he wore every day. Then he returned to bed. Within minutes, his breathing became steady. Exhaustion had finally won. Naomi remained awake until sunrise. The decision forming inside her terrified her, yet every time she remembered his tears, it grew stronger. Morning arrived beneath pale grey skies. Kendrick prepared for work as usual. He smiled, he kissed her forehead, he asked whether she was feeling well. He worried about her comfort, even now, even after everything. He still placed her first. As he reached the door, Naomi suddenly spoke. "Kendrick." He turned. "Yes?" For a moment she almost told him everything. The visit, the illness, the request, the fear. Instead, she swallowed the words. "Be careful today." His smile returned, "Always." Then he left. The door closed softly behind him. Naomi stood motionless. Tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. She knew what she was considering was unthinkable. She knew it would destroy her, maybe destroy him too. Yet one belief had begun consuming her heart. If losing her could save Kendrick, could restore his future, could reunite him with his dying father, then perhaps love required a sacrifice greater than staying. As rain clouds gathered once again above the city, Naomi sank to the floor and cried harder than she ever had before. Because somewhere deep inside, she had already started planning how to disappear from the life of the man she loved. The decision did not bring peace. Naomi thought it would. She believed choosing sacrifice would somehow calm the storm inside her heart. Instead, every day became harder. Every smile Kendrick gave her felt precious. Every conversation felt painful. Every moment together reminded her of what she was preparing to lose. She carried the secret alone. She carried it while serving customers. She carried it while preparing meals. She carried it while lying beside the man she loved. The weight grew heavier with each passing day. Kendrick noticed changes, not obvious ones, small things. Moments when Naomi seemed distracted. Moments when she stared into space. Moments when sadness briefly crossed her face. Whenever he asked about it, she smiled. Whenever he worried, she reassured him. Whenever he looked closer, she looked away. One evening, they sat together outside, watching the neighborhood settle into darkness. Warm air drifted through the streets. Music played softly from a nearby window. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. "What are you thinking about?" Kendrick asked. Naomi forced a smile. "The future. Good things, I hope." Her heart nearly broke. Very good things. The lie tasted bitter. Meanwhile, Monica continued waiting. She never pressured Naomi again. She never called, she never visited. Yet her request remained present every day. A silent shadow hanging over everything. Eventually, Naomi realized she could not delay forever. If she was truly going to leave, it had to be convincing. Kendrick would never stop searching otherwise. He would spend years looking, years hoping, years refusing to let go. That thought terrified her because she knew it was true. The first person she contacted was Monica. The meeting took place inside a quiet cafe far from the neighborhood. Rain tapped softly against the windows while both women sat across from each other. Monica immediately sensed something had changed. "You've made a decision," she said. Naomi looked down, then nodded. "I'll leave." The older woman closed her eyes briefly. Relief appeared, then guilt, then sadness, all within seconds. "You don't have to do this," Monica whispered. The statement surprised Naomi. "Yes, I do." "No," Monica's voice cracked. "Not if you're doing it only for us." Naomi slowly shook her head. "I'm doing it for him." Silence followed. Neither woman believed the choice would bring happiness, only consequences. "How?" Monica finally asked. Naomi swallowed hard. "He can never find me." The words sounded terrifying, spoken aloud, yet she continued, "If I simply leave, he'll spend years searching." Monica stared at her. Understanding slowly appeared, then horror. You're talking about making him believe you're dead." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. "Yes." The cafe suddenly felt colder. Neither woman spoke for a long moment. Finally, Monica whispered, "That's extreme. It's necessary. Naomi, you know him." The older woman looked away, because she did know him, and Naomi was right. Kendrick would never stop looking. The plan developed slowly, painfully. Every step felt unreal. A remote road, a staged accident, a disappearance impossible to question. The details mattered less than the decision itself. Each arrangement felt like another piece of her life being erased. The hardest part was pretending everything remained normal. Each morning she woke beside Kendrick. Each evening she listened to him talk about work. Each night she imagined life without him. Sometimes she nearly abandoned the plan. Sometimes she almost confessed everything. Sometimes she reached for the truth and stopped herself at the last second. Then she remembered his tears, the quiet breakdown she witnessed in the darkness, and she continued. The final evening arrived sooner than expected. The sky remained unusually clear. Stars filled the night above the city. Inside the apartment, Kendrick slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. Naomi lay awake beside him, watching, remembering, memorizing his breathing, his face, his presence. Everything. Slowly, she reached for his hand, carefully placed her fingers over his. He stirred slightly but did not wake. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. "I love you," she whispered. The words disappeared into the darkness. No answer came, only silence. Morning arrived beneath brilliant sunshine. The weather felt cruelly beautiful. Kendrick woke smiling. Naomi prepared breakfast. They shared a simple meal together. Neither realized it would be their last, at least not in the way either expected. "You seem quiet today." "Okay," Kendrick said. "Just tired. You need more rest." She smiled softly. Even now he worried about her. Even now he placed her needs before his own. After breakfast, he prepared for work. At the door, he paused. Something felt strange. He could not explain it. A feeling, a hesitation, an uneasiness lingering beneath the surface. "Everything okay?" he asked one final time. Naomi nodded. "Everything's fine." The lie nearly shattered her. Kendrick stepped forward and kissed her forehead. "I'll see you tonight." She forced herself to smile. "Yes." Then he left. The door closed. The apartment became silent. Naomi stood motionless for several minutes. Then the tears came, harder than ever before, because deep inside she knew the truth. When Kendrick returned home that evening, nothing in his world would ever be the same again. The afternoon passed slowly for Kendrick. Work felt unusually difficult. The construction site buzzed with its normal activity, yet he found himself distracted. Tools clanged against metal, workers shouted instructions across unfinished structures. Dust filled the hot air. Still, an uneasy feeling refused to leave him. Several times he checked his phone. No messages, no missed calls. Nothing unusual, yet something felt wrong. As the sun began descending toward the horizon, a supervisor approached him. "Kendrick?" He looked up. The man's expression immediately made his stomach tighten. "There's someone here asking for you." Confusion crossed Kendrick's face. Nobody ever visited him at work. He followed the supervisor toward the entrance. A police vehicle waited nearby. The sight instantly filled him with dread. An officer stepped forward. "Are you Kendrick Cole?" "Yes." The officer hesitated. That hesitation told him everything. His heart began racing. "What's happened?" Silence. Then words he would never forget. "There's been an accident." The world seemed to stop. "Who?" The officer swallowed. "Your wife." Kendrick stared blankly. The sentence made no sense. "No." "Sir, no." His voice came out stronger, more desperate, more frightened. "You're wrong." The officer looked away. That single movement destroyed the last piece of hope. The drive to the scene felt endless. Every second stretched painfully. Every mile deepened his fear. The sky had turned dark by the time they arrived. Emergency lights flashed through the gathering evening. Police vehicles lined the road. Smoke still drifted into the air. Kendrick stepped from the vehicle. His legs felt weak. His chest felt hollow. Then he saw the wreckage. A burned vehicle, twisted metal, blackened remains, nothing recognizable, nothing human, nothing real. "No," he whispered. The word barely escaped his lips. An officer began explaining details. Kendrick heard none of them. His eyes remained fixed on the wreckage. Somewhere nearby, someone mentioned identification, personal belongings, evidence, confirmation. The words blurred together. No. His knees suddenly gave out. He collapsed onto the ground. The pain arrived all at once, overwhelming, crushing, unbearable. This isn't real. His voice broke. This isn't real. Nobody corrected him. Nobody could. Hours later, he sat alone in a hospital waiting room while officials completed reports. Bright fluorescent lights reflected from sterile floors. People moved quietly through hallways. The entire world felt distant, unreachable, a nightmare he could not escape. Eventually, Monica arrived. Then Vernon. For the first time in years, father and son sat together without arguing. Neither had words. Pain had silenced everything. Vernon looked older than ever, smaller somehow, as if witnessing his son's grief had stripped away every remaining layer of pride. Several days later, the funeral took place. Grey clouds covered the sky. Cold wind moved through the cemetery. Friends and neighbors gathered quietly. Kendrick barely noticed them. He stood motionless, holding his infant son. The child slept peacefully, unaware that his world had changed forever. The ceremony passed like a blur. Prayers, condolences, flowers, words, endless words. None of them mattered. Only one truth remained. Naomi was gone. That night, Kendrick returned to the apartment alone. The silence felt unbearable. Her clothes still hung near the bed. Her belongings remained untouched. Her presence lingered everywhere. And nowhere. He sat in the darkness for hours, unable to move, unable to think, unable to breathe without pain. Finally, tears came, slowly at first, then relentlessly. I'm sorry, he whispered. The words echoed through the empty room. I couldn't protect you. The grief that followed changed everything. Days became weeks, weeks became months. Sleep disappeared, joy disappeared, purpose disappeared. Only responsibility remained. His son needed him. Food needed to be purchased. Bills needed to be paid. Life demanded movement even when his heart refused. Eventually, reality forced an impossible choice. He could not continue alone, not while grieving, not while raising a child, not while struggling financially. There was only one place left to go. The place he swore he would never return. The Cole mansion. Months after Naomi's death, Kendrick stood once again before the towering gates. Daniel rested quietly in his arms. Rain clouds gathered overhead. The massive entrance slowly opened, as if welcoming him home or reminding him of defeat. He could not tell which. Inside, everything looked exactly the same. The polished floors, the expensive artwork, the controlled atmosphere. Yet Kendrick felt like a stranger. Vernon waited inside the dining room. The illness had changed him dramatically. His face looked thinner, his movements slower, his voice softer. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Then Vernon looked at the child. My grandson. Kendrick nodded. Silence followed, heavy, awkward, painful. Finally, Vernon spoke. You came back. Kendrick looked down briefly. I didn't have a choice. The older man nodded slowly. No satisfaction appeared on his face, only sadness. Then he said something unexpected. Neither did I. Kendrick frowned. Before he could ask what that meant, Monica entered carrying a sealed envelope. Her expression looked troubled. Very troubled. She handed it toward Kendrick with trembling hands. This arrived today, she said quietly. Confused, Kendrick accepted it. The handwriting immediately froze him in place. He knew those letters. He knew every curve, every line, every detail. His heartbeat stopped. Because written across the front of the envelope was a name he never expected to see again. Naomi. The envelope slipped slightly in Kendrick's trembling hands. For several seconds, he simply stared at it. The room disappeared around him. The mansion, the furniture, the people. Everything faded. Only the handwriting remained. Naomi's handwriting. Impossible. His heart pounded violently against his chest. Monica watched him carefully. Vernon remained silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Finally, Kendrick broke the seal. His hands shook so badly that the paper nearly slipped from his fingers. Slowly, he unfolded the letter. The first line shattered his world. "My dearest Kendrick." Tears immediately filled his eyes. He knew that voice. He could hear it, feel it, remember it. The words continued. "If you are reading this, then everything happened exactly as I feared it would. Before you hate me completely, please know that every decision I made came from love. Not wisdom, not courage, just love." Kendrick's breathing became uneven. The room blurred. He kept reading. "I saw your pain. I saw what losing your family was doing to you. I heard you crying when you thought I was asleep. I watched you carry burdens that became heavier every day. I convinced myself that I was the reason. I convinced myself that if I disappeared, you would heal." A tear fell onto the page. Then another. Then another. "I was wrong." The simple sentence struck harder than everything else. "I thought sacrifice would save you. Instead, it destroyed us both." Kendrick lowered his head. Pain rushed through him all over again. Years of grief, years of loneliness, years of questions. The letter continued. "If there is any kindness left in your heart for me, do not spend your life trapped in anger. Remember the good days. Remember the rain. Remember the laughter. Remember that I loved you with everything I had." His hands trembled uncontrollably. Then he reached the final section. "There is one truth you deserve. I never stopped loving you. Not for one day, not for 1 hour, not for one moment." The page slipped from his fingers. Silence consumed the room. Monica wiped tears from her face. Even Vernon looked away. Kendrick slowly stood. His heart raced. His mind struggled. Something about the letter felt wrong. Not the words, the timing, the delivery, the fact that it had arrived now, years later. Suddenly, he looked toward Monica. "Where did this come from?" She hesitated. "Too long. Much too long." Kendrick's eyes narrowed. "Mother." Monica's composure finally cracked. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks. "There's something I need to tell you." The room froze. Vernon closed his eyes, as though he already knew what was coming. "What?" Monica's voice shook. "Naomi isn't dead." The world stopped, completely. Kendrick stared at her, unable to process the words, unable to understand them, unable to breathe. "What did you say?" "She's alive." The sentence exploded through the room. Every memory, every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of grief. Everything collapsed at once. "No." Kendrick stepped backward. "No." Monica cried openly now. "I'm sorry." "No." His voice echoed through the mansion. Years of pain erupted. "You told me she was dead." "I know. I buried her." "I know. I mourned her." "I know." Kendrick's chest rose and fell violently. His entire body shook. Anger, shock, hope, disbelief, all colliding together. "Where is she?" Monica looked down, then whispered an address. The drive felt endless. Night had fallen completely. Rain hammered against the windshield. Streetlights flashed past like blurred memories. His heart refused to slow. Every second felt unbearable. Every mile felt impossible. Finally, he arrived. A small house stood quietly beneath the rain. Modest, simple, ordinary. Kendrick stepped out. His legs felt weak. The front door stood slightly open. Warm light spilled into the darkness. He moved forward. One step, then another, until he reached the doorway. And there she was, Naomi. Alive, real, standing beneath a soft yellow light. For a moment neither moved, neither spoke. Years disappeared. Pain disappeared. Distance disappeared. Only two people remained, two hearts carrying the same wounds. Naomi's eyes filled instantly with tears. "Kendrick." His name broke inside her voice. Kendrick stared at her, unable to look away, unable to speak. Finally, he whispered, "You're alive." Naomi nodded. Tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry." The words barely escaped. Then everything broke. Years of guilt, years of grief, years of love, years of regret. Naomi collapsed into tears. Kendrick stepped forward, not because the pain disappeared, not because forgiveness came instantly, but because love had survived everything. He pulled her into his arms. Both of them cried, not as strangers, not as victims, as two people who had spent years carrying wounds they never should have carried alone. Forgiveness would take time, trust would take time, healing would take time, but for the first time in years they would face that journey together. Rain continued falling outside, washing over streets, washing over memories, washing over the past. And somewhere in that quiet moment, Kendrick finally understood something. Love is not proven through sacrifice alone. Love is proven through staying, through trusting, through fighting together. The years they lost could never be recovered, but the years ahead still belong to them. And sometimes, after every mistake, every heartbreak, and every impossible choice, that is enough. The end. Subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, your viewing location, and share this video.